Leni's project was not intentional in that way. I was just there to lift her depression. Then she wanted me to use the blanket to educate children. And the rest was history. It was not my intention to create a multi-generational program. That was Leni's legacy. My name is Yafa Podvilevich-Weinberg. I am a clinical psychologist and director of the Holocaust Survivor Care Program at Jewish Family Service of Greater Dallas. This started during the pandemic. We had a client who, as the pandemic was starting, had an injury, needed a hip replacement. At that time, she was 100 years old, Holocaust survivor from Germany. And I said at the beginning of the pandemic, because this is the time where we're unafraid to go anywhere, nobody was allowed in the hospitals, older adults were isolated, they couldn't see their family members. And here you have a 100-year-old that was bedbound. For the first time, she was depressed, and she had lost her will to live. And I was called to see if there was anything we could do to address her depression in the middle of this pandemic. And also understanding what we need to do that will be person-centered, trauma-informed. How do we implement evidence-based treatment strategies with not only older adults, but a centenarian under these very challenging conditions. I needed to work very closely with her in the most thorough PCTI way to really do something that would have an impact. Her family got her a grandpad. And with the grandpad, we were able to have video conferencing. And some days she could only speak for 5 minutes. She was exhausted. She will not be able to speak. I started realizing that there were some areas of strength that I may be able to utilize in the work I was doing with her. First of all, she had always been knitting things for other people. I have pictures of her 6 months after the war ended, already sitting on a bench, just like this, knitting. So with that, we started to think about maybe we will create a piece that could be framed that will depict the different aspects of her life through the use of crochet. Her daughter intervened and said, "But Mom, if you're going to have something depicting each period of your life and you want to include the Holocaust, could you at least not make it black? Because I want to put it on the wall and I'm not sure I want something black on my wall." And to that, the client became a little incensed. And you could see the energy coming over this really, really small, frail, incredible little woman as she came out and said, "You know what? The whole thing is now going to be the Holocaust. I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to do what it means to me. I want to share something I haven't yet shared." And you could see the energy building as she started affirming her thoughts, her wants, her needs, her perspective. And at that point, I knew if I could just stay with her and her vision, we would have something incredible. And what she decided to do was to create a blanket that would tell the story of how she went into hiding. And she didn't want to have a gruesome story about the Holocaust. And she envisioned a circle of children sitting on the floor, holding her blanket as they heard her story. So the process started, and every week she created a little square, and the square will have a different color, and every color had a meaning. And in the process of telling me what each square meant, we were able to really get to that time in her life. Then he spent a lot of time telling me about her love for her husband. The square that represented her youthful self, her relationship with her friends, the relationship with her family. The white square representing that letter she got from Germany saying, "Oh, you have to come home for a physical." The Nazi regime knew where they lived because they had their address. And that's the day they knew they had to leave. Every square representing another aspect of that journey. And as we went through each of those squares, each of those weeks, getting her sense of meaning, we were able to add the therapeutic component and start looking at the silver linings in each adventure. And very slowly, starting to look at that terrifying experience of 3 years and 10 months in hiding in an attic in a farm as empowering, as strengthening. What emerged was the spirit of Leni, this idealistic woman who had a place to be. She had something to give to the world and knew what she wanted, was not afraid to be brave and be courageous and do what needed to be done. By the time all of that was completed and the blanket was finished, it was almost her 101st birthday. She wanted me to come over to pick up the blanket. She developed a letter of acceptance of the gifts. We were to keep this gift under our care to be used as she intended for the education of children about the Holocaust. And then we had this incredible opportunity to celebrate her birthday, receive the blanket, to have some pictures taken. And we wanted to do something to inaugurate, to display, to show this blanket. She was just so energetic, and believe me, she didn't have that level of energy, but whatever was there was out there on that day. Whatever it was possible was out there. And soon after, our dear Leni passed away. We were all pleased with what had been accomplished. She had not been depressed at the end of her life. She had found her place in the world once again. We got a call from a member of our community, a father at Levin Academy, who wanted to come and meet with us because wanted to make a donation to be used for the care of Holocaust survivors. And when I heard that, everything became suddenly clear. What if we create a special program where we can actually come into the school with a blanket and begin introducing children to Leni's legacy? It didn't take very long for us to come up with the idea of matching children in the school with survivors under our care. And then we had this incredible opportunity when Leni's daughter reached out to me and said, I want to thank you for you and everybody in your team and at JFS for everything that was done for the care for my mom. And she said, is there anything we can do? And I said, is there any chance your family might be visiting? Within weeks, we had this incredible event where we had Leni's children present with their spouses, and we had an opportunity to tell his story to the children and say, and that little boy who was born in that attic in the middle of the war is sitting right there. And this, 80-year-old man stands up and he says, I'm Robbie, And the kids were like asking questions and everybody got so excited. And that was the launching of this project. When I started an intervention for with the depression, I never imagined that this would become a multi-generational project. That it was going to involve the school, that it was going to involve parents, that it was going to have an impact in the community. And that is part of the gift of Leni, of having created this beautiful blanket and given us a clear direction of how this must be used, and of us honoring her request. How many older adults do we care for who are in the 90s or more? You don't know their story. You don't know what's behind them. And person-centered, trauma-informed, requires that's the sixth pillar. We have to know who they are, their culture, their background, their language, their experiences. We have to be able to see the world through their eyes and give them that sense of affirmation. Work with them in a way that is collaborative. We're not imposing. Yes, she was referred for depression, but I had to find a way to connect people as a human being and make this relevant and make this meaningful. You cannot do a legacy project unless it's real.
And this is as real as it gets. It was beautiful.